This is The Herd, wherever you may be and however you may be listening, live in Los Angeles, iHeartRadio, Fox Sports Radio, and FS1. The Herd sponsored by Firestone Complete Auto Care. Keep your car running newer, longer, and Joy Taylor is joining me today on a Tuesday. Drew Brees joining us next hour. The football season's getting closer and closer and closer and closer.
Good morning, Colin.
Good morning, Joy. Very excited for it. Very excited for it. You can pot down that music officially. I'm tired of it.
I'm not trying to rage this morning.
So life's easier now. If you embrace technology, life's easier. All technology is created to make our lives easier. That's what it's created for. Take my wife. My mom back in the 40s and 50s would go to a butcher to get the meat. And then go to a baker to get the bread. And then, a decade or two later, they created supermarkets where you could go and get everything at once. And now the supermarkets have a little coffee place in it. You got bakeries. You got the butcher. They make sandwiches. Oh, the supermarket. Now, my wife doesn't even have to go to the supermarket. Occasionally, she'll have groceries delivered to her.
Oh, it's the best.
It's the best. And by the way, now we can have meals delivered to us. Not like in the 70s and 80s, pizza. Meals. Oh, no, we don't get the ingredients. I mean, they're done. We just heat it up for 10 minutes or microwave it. Life is easier. My wife sometimes cooks at night because she's bored. She wants activity. It's so much easier. Every generation, life's easier as long as you pay attention. If you're going to be old, stick in the mud, rigid, build up walls, then life's not easier. It sucks. But if you're willing to embrace new stuff, life's much easier today. Planning a trip. I'm going on a trip in 3 weeks. It takes you 10 minutes. I can get the hotel. I can get the car. I can get the restaurants. I can get reservations. Just go to an app. It used to be an all-day schloid to book a vacation. Life is easier. So LeBron James opened up a new school yesterday. He was doing a bunch of talking yesterday. And I think everybody's freaking out about, guy, 16th year, the guy is shot. He was asked about his prime, and here's what he had to say.
I don't even look at it like that because I don't feel like this is one of the last years of my prime. I think that's another statistic number, and I've always been a part of beating the odds in life. So I don't feel like this is even a rebuilding, year for us. We have an opportunity to do something that a lot of people don't think we can do, and we love the notion of it. It's another rebuilding year, and we don't have enough. So, that will motivate the guys that we have. Anyway.
Okay, so LeBron's basically telling you, I'm not that old, folks. We have 4 guys in the NBA. They're going to be in their 40s this year. 4. Dirk Nowitzki, Vince Carter, Manu Ginobili, and Jason Terry in their 40s. And they're not LeBron James. Because here's what's happened in the NBA for big guys like Kevin Durant and LeBron James. Look at their efficiency numbers. They're going up, 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 up as they get older because the game is easier. It's like cooking at home now. If you're not rigid, if you watch analytics, learn to shoot, the game is easier. Think about this. It used to be for a guy like Kevin Durant or LeBron that you had to score down low on the baseline, and you'd have a big guy trying to block your shots and a 270-pound center leaning on you, and they'd have the forearms in your back, and you'd score, and then you had to go all the way back down the court, 97 feet, and you had to defend the basket. You had to defend the guy that you scored on, and he would lean on you, and he would bang on you, and he would... It's not a baseline-to-baseline league because of analytics. There is no reason to have centers on the floor if they can't shoot. There's no reason to have a tough guy on the floor if he can't shoot. So LeBron James doesn't have to go low. He shoots a 3. And then he no longer has to go all the way back down on defense and defend the post. He defends the 3. It has gone from baseline to perimeter league. You score on the perimeter and you defend on the perimeter. Nobody's banging on you. How many steps, how much weight do you save on your body per possession in the NBA? I'm not talking per game. I'm talking per possession. LeBron and Durant. LeBron about 7 years ago started shooting threes because LeBron's smart. He figured it out. I don't have to go low to score and take a beating. I don't have to go on the defensive end and defend at the other baseline. It's no longer a baseline to baseline league for big guys. It's a shoot at the perimeter and defend on the perimeter league. How many steps, how much weight do you take off your shoulders per possession? Look at LeBron last year. Games played, career high. Assists, career high. Rebounds, career high. Triple-doubles, career high. Without the beating. It's not a 97 to 97 league. It's a 37 feet to 37 feet league. You score outside and you defend outside. So every generation, if you embrace analytics, it's an easier life. Booking a trip, making dinner. As Joy said, it used to be you had to go to a butcher, then a baker, then the supermarket. Now, it comes to you. Meals now come to you. And for my daughter, it'll be easier than it is for my wife. There'll be some spaceship that'll drop it right into your kitchen. I don't know what'll happen, but it'll be something like that. Look at Kevin Durant's career. Look at his efficiency numbers every year. Field goal, 3-point, effective, plus minus. It's all going up, up, up. So when people say, oh, LeBron James, he is 33. Let me show you a play. Does this look like a guy who's been in the NBA 16 years?
LeBron turned the corner inside. He made Yusuf Nurkic a screensaver. 15-14. The Kevlar bench is going nuts.
LeBron James with a dance to the hoop and throws the hammer down.
29-26 LeBron. He rattled the building. That's what they came to see. My chair is shaking.
The reason LeBron can do that in year 16 last year is because he doesn't have to score at the rim very often. So when he does, he has that energy. All technology is created to make your life easier. That's what analytics do in sports. In baseball, they shift the players to a side so they don't have to move as much to catch the baseball that's hit. In basketball, it ain't baseline to baseline. It's 3-point scored, 3-point defended. LeBron is really inches off his prime, not feet, not yards, not meters. He is just inches off his prime. And with that, let me shift to how the analytics are changing of football. So I saw a story again, John Gruden yesterday talking about Khalil Mack, and the reports are they're not close to signing Khalil Mack. Khalil Mack's the best pass rusher in football, arguably. John Gruden said yesterday, our defense wasn't good last year, even with Khalil Mack. Aaron Donald's the best defensive player in the National Football League. Rams have given extensions to wide receivers, a massive contract to a running back and corners. Aaron Donald can't get a contract. By the way, Earl Thomas in Seattle redefined the safety position. Seattle's not that interested. Maybe Dallas will be. 3 players who are probably the best at their position cannot get contract extensions. Teams don't even appear to be, frankly, in a couple of those cases, even interested. Yet Stephon Diggs, a receiver for Minnesota this morning, got an extension, $40 million guaranteed. He's never had a 1,000-yard season. Running backs, wide receivers, Jarvis Landry, slot guys, huge money. Brandon Cooks, third team, 3 years, massive extension. Why? Well, because analytics are the enemy of defensive players and the friend of offensive players. Analytics are telling you who can stop anybody. Think about last year in the NFL. The Jacksonville Jaguars. You know you're a good defense when you get a nickname, Saxonville. Saxonville. Man, they were tough. Really? Big Ben played them. And in the games he played them, he had a 64% completion percentage, threw for 470 yards and a passer rating over 110. Tom Brady ate him alive, and so did Jimmy Garoppolo. The Jags did beat up on Jacoby Brissett and Tom Savage and Tyrod Taylor and Andy Dalton and TJ Yates and Deshaun Kaiser. There were a lot of injuries last year. So the Jags defense looked really good. against bad quarterbacks and replacement quarterbacks. But they were such a good defense, we gave them a name, Saxonville. Garoppolo, Big Ben in the playoffs, and Tom Brady ate them for lunch. By the way, the best quarterback in their division that was healthy last year, Marcus Mariota, went 2-0 against them and ate them up one of the games. Saxonville. By the way, the Minnesota Vikings defense, unbelievable. That's funny, I watched them in the playoffs. Drew Brees and Nick Foles ate them alive. 7 of the 8 quarters against Green Bay, Minnesota didn't play Aaron Rodgers. Big Ben also had a passer rating of 105 against Minnesota's defense. You know who the Jags and the Vikings carved up? Go look at a lot of the Vikings wins. No Aaron Rodgers, Brett Hundley twice, Mitch Trubisky twice. The Jags got a nickname, and we perceived the Vikings to be unbelievable. No, we had a lot of injuries last year. There was a lot of garbage quarterback play, especially Thanksgiving on, and the Jags ate it up. But Garoppolo, Roethlisberger, Big Ben, Brees, Nick Foles didn't have any problem with the Jags, didn't have any problem with the Vikings. By the way, in the Super Bowl last year, New England and Philadelphia had top 5 defenses, each with 2 weeks to prepare for one another. They combined for 800 yards passing, 74 points. There was 1 sack and one combined punt. And the completion percentage on third down was over 60%. And the Eagles have a great defense, and New England's scoring defense was top 5 in the league. Nobody could stop anybody. Saxonville couldn't stop the good quarterbacks. Minnesota's great defense got carved up in the playoffs, and the Super Bowl was a video game between 2 top 5 defenses with excellent coaching staffs that had 2 weeks to prepare. Analytics have become the enemy of defense. J.J. Watt, pay him what you want. Texans aren't any better with him than without him. But when Deshaun Watson arrived, oh my God, Houston could win the Super Bowl. Remember, 1998, 2 quarterbacks threw for over 4,000 yards. In the last 2 years, it's happened 21 times with a handful of different quarterbacks. Analytics in basketball have made it easier for the LeBron and the Kevin Durant. The big man ain't playing baseline to baseline. So don't look at him and go, he's 15 years in. Nah, he's about 11 years in. That's what his body is. It's 11 years in. He doesn't have to guard bigs. He doesn't have to lean on bigs, and bigs don't lean on him. It is a 37-foot game. Not baseline to baseline, 3-3. Scoring and defending. And in the NFL, analytics are the enemy of defensive players. Earl Thomas, no offers. Aaron Donald, what's going on? Khalil Mack, not close. And Stephon Diggs and Brandon Cooks are getting massive contract extensions. You can't stop anybody these days in the NFL. Don't fall for Saxonville. Don't fall for, you can't score on Minnesota. Aaron Rodgers will move the ball both times he faces the Vikings this year. Both times. Last year, Brett Hundley in 7 quarters couldn't. That doesn't make you a great defense. By the way, is this last year? Denver was 3rd in total defense last year. They gave up 51 points to the Eagles and 41 to the Patriots. That was a great defense last year with Von Miller in that pass rush and that secondary. Denver, 51 to the Eagles, 41 to the Patriots. You know why I love analytics too? Because they take out the dumb guy argument. You know, the guy at the bar, I'll tell you, this guy's the best. Analytics are like, no, actually, Carmelo Anthony's actually not nearly as good as you think. The drunk guy in the bar was always irritating. Now you can just go to your phone and go, no, actually, Carmelo is not a good basketball player because the analytics tell you he's not. It takes out dumb guy thinking. All I have to do is just embrace them. It's right there in front of you. Here's the data. Just put your arms around it and embrace it. Life's much easier for my wife than it was for my mom, and it'll be even easier for my sister. Coming up next, it's the summer. Anybody this summer going on a boat? Have you gone on a boat this summer?
I have not yet this summer, no.
Okay, I got kids. So I take my kids out in the boat a couple times. I love boats. But there is a reason that you should rent boats and buy houses. And it has to do with Bryce Harper. That's coming up next. We've been talking about Simply Safe Home Security a lot on the show. It's a great security system, fantastic protection. And it's 5 guys that met each other in college, The founder started the company. He wanted help with friends who were burglarized. It's now a $2 billion company. And millions of people are protected by SimpliSafe. Power outages, it works. Down Wi-Fi, it works. Burglar smashes your keypad, the system still works. Incredibly intuitive, minutes to set up. And there are no contracts and no hidden fees. 24/7 monitoring under $15 a month. CNET, PC Mag, and the Wirecutter have all named SimpliSafe their top pick for home security. Order it now, simplysafecolin.com, simplysafecolin.com. Free shipping for my listeners and free returns. SimpliSafe. When you're ready to buy a new car, Hyundai's on your team. Shopper assurance program. Flexible test driving, transparent pricing, streamlined purchasing, no paperwork. Go to HyundaiUSA.com/shopper assurance. You know, one of the things, and I've talked about this for years and years, I haven't talked about this lately, Joy, but I'm a big believer in that you rent or lease things that are depreciating and you buy things that accelerate. I buy houses because I know I can have a house, it can double or triple in value, and I get a great usage rate out of my house. I live in it, I sleep in it, I eat in it, I socialize in it, I watch TV in it. I'm in my house all day long. I lease my car. It's a depreciating asset. I rent boats for the summer. They don't appreciate. Okay, so I'm a big believer in, now, I like boats, and I go out on boats in the summer, but I rent them. Why? Because the usage rate's terrible. You have to put it away in most states for 9 months a year. You don't use it very often. They don't accelerate in value. If you own a boat 10 years, it's not worth double what it was. There's never been a TV show called Flip This Boat. There's a lot of TV shows called Flip This House. You can make that a career. Houses, appreciating asset. Buy. Cars, boats, depreciating assets. Rent. Buy a horse. They can be worth more. Horses. Yeah, I mean, the people that buy horses, the horse business, oh, I get that. Oh, I know guys who have made money in horses, the smart ones. But again, they can appreciate. In baseball, Bryce Harper is going to be massive free agent. Oh, he's going to be on the market. He's a boat. Baseball free agents are boats. Rent them. Do what the Dodgers did. Here, have a couple of prospects. We'll rent Manny Machado for a couple of months. Boats are fun, and they create great memories. I can remember going on a boat as a kid. My dad was a water skier. You can remember going on with your mom and dad in a boat. If you're a parent, boats are fun as hell, and they're great memories for your kids. Great memories. I can remember my lake times as a kid. We didn't ever own a boat. Why would you own a boat? Baseball free agents, I'll rent Manny Machado. And if I win a World Series, you'll remember the Manny Machado Dodgers. I don't want to pay him. The Cubs rented Aroldis Chapman, and they won a World Series. He was fun, and he got great memories. The Yankees bought him. He's still good, but he's not worth what he was when you paid for him. He's not. Go look at these four great baseball players. These are franchise-changing baseball players. Mike Trout, Manny Machado, Bryce Harper, Giancarlo Stanton. 31 years in the biggest combined, 7 playoff appearances, 1 series win. 31 years, 1 series win. Kevin Durant and LeBron go to your basketball team, changes your franchise. Because an NBA free agent is buying a house. He's worth double halfway through the contract what you paid for it. The equity of the franchise grows. The valuations of everything grows. Halfway through his contract, I could sell him off and get 10 different players.
All the businesses around the stadium grow.
Usage rate. He plays 40 minutes a night. He gives me 29 points a night. He touches the ball every possession. He can defend the ball every possession. I can market him. A baseball player's up 4 times a night. He may sit out in center field and have 1 can of corn hit to him in 3.5 hours. Baseball free agents. Rent them. They're boats. They're boats. Name me a contract that's a 9-year deal, and halfway through it, the team's like, wow, we really got our money's worth there. Albert Pujols, what an albatross that was. Josh Hamilton, Robinson Cano's not playing now. By the way, I'd love to have Bryce Harper. I'd love to have him for 2 months. Fun, great memories. Who would forget the Bryce Harper summer? And you can win some games. I don't want to buy him, and I love Bryce Harper. I live in I've seen Mike Trout play 5 times live. I watch Mike Trout. I don't want to own him. I don't want to pay $42 million a year for a baseball player. Can't win a playoff series. So in the free agency, I see free agency boat to house, same as assets. I would absolutely pay for an NBA free agent. For a star, my usage rate, it's worth the money. Everything grows around it. It's easy to market. He's constantly on the floor. I get him every night, offense and defense. Baseball players, you're better off renting. Rent Aroldis Chapman. Let the Yankees pay for him. Well, why would you want to buy Bryce Harper and buy Mike Trout and buy Manny Machado? Give him a couple of minor league guys. You're not going to miss that outfielder in Syracuse, that middle reliever in Pawtucket. Here's what you're going to miss, $150 million, and you're not going to be able to build a pitching staff if you pay Manny Machado that. So when I look at Bryce Harper, as much as I love him, I would love to rent him. But I have no interest getting in those sweepstakes. That is not an appreciating asset. That is a depreciating asset. And I love Bryce Harper. Met his dad, love him as a player, but I'm not getting involved in that. I'm not paying somebody $350 million. Halfway through that contract, you're going to be like, good God, with defensive shifts now, power hitters, they're hitting 225. Joy with the news.
No. Turn on the news. This is the Herd Line News.
So the Patriots have some adjustments to make this offseason in anticipation of Julian Edelman's 4-game suspension to start the season. But according to Bill Belichick, Pats have plenty of receivers that can take the spot that's left by Edelman. Plenty of receivers, Colin. Let's take a listen.
Well, we'll see how it goes with Braxton. He wasn't able to do a lot for us this spring, so this is really our first, let's say, lengthy exposure to him in our system. So we'll see how that goes. Patterson and Matthews and even Britt, who we didn't get until December, those guys are way ahead of where they were last year in Britt's case or earlier in the spring. And I'd say even the same thing for Phil Dorsett. Even though he was here last year, being able to start at the beginning, he's had a real good spring too. So we'll see how all those guys continue to do as we get into competition against our defense and in the preseason games.
Well, Bill Belichick he managed to put some stuff together that we don't expect to be successful. But is that Belichick or is that Brady?
Well, I mean, Brady made Chris Hogan a much better player. But in the end, Chris Hogan's just a player. I mean, Danny Amendola was good before New England, was good with New England. He'll probably be pretty good in Miami. Danny Amendola is better than average. Randy Moss was good before New England, great with New England. When I look at their receiving core, I think Gronk's amazing. Everybody else is a guy.
And some are you're just unsure of what they're going to be. But, Edelman is his favorite receiver.
And he's off an ACL, and he's an older guy, and he's taking a beating. It's like,
I don't know. I don't want to fall into the trap of doubting the Patriots because that usually ends poorly for me.
They're going to win the division. I just don't think – listen, again, it's Brady and Belichick. They'll score 27 a game. My question becomes – what's the cushion for them? Are they winning a lot of 27-24s? Or in the years they've won Super Bowls, they've been able to kind of extend the gap between teams? I just think their personnel this year is not dynamic enough. They're going to be in a lot of close games, and they're going to win more than they're going to lose. But I just don't see this 19 weeks from September being this is a football team that I could literally say Gronk gets hurt, Hightower gets hurt, and you have what? One star player? They just don't have the depth of dynamic athletes.
Well, I better hope they don't have those injuries. I mean, they're going to get Edelman back, but it'll be interesting. Charles Barkley always has more than 2 cents to spare, especially when it comes to the new-look Lakers, which Barkley believes will create problems for Luke Walton due to the roster's split identity. He told Sports Illustrated, it's an impossible scenario for Luke. He's got LeBron who's going to do things his way. He's got those young kids who are probably in awe of LeBron. He's got those older guys who are going to try and seek attention. They're going to want touches. Now, the only other people on this roster besides LeBron that have rings are JaVale and Rondo. Yeah. Now, I don't have a problem with the young roster because I think that LeBron, especially from his experience last year, realizes that you do need some veterans that know how to win, but you also have to have a young core. And I like the veterans that he brought in, Lance Stevenson and Rondo, like those guys wanting touches. You're only there because LeBron wanted you there. I know they all have egos, but I don't anticipate this just going off the rails.
No, I don't either. I think the biggest issue is LeBron doesn't practice much at this point in his career.
Right.
So it's going to take a month or two for this team to get it together. If you go back to the Miami team with Bosh and Wade, again, not a great practice team. They were really clunky for about 5 weeks.
And they didn't win the first year.
Yeah, they were 9-8. So their first month and a half, they were not a great basketball team in the East.
The sky is falling, and it was all a disaster.
Then he goes back to
failure.
Cleveland. And again, with Kyrie, LeBron at this point is not going to give you great practice minutes. So when you watch the growth of the Lakers, it's going to be in games. He's not doing summer league. He's not doing preseason. So the Lakers are going to be really choppy in November and December. And then about January, you're going to be like, oh, okay. Because that's the issue with LeBron.
So basically, just like every other LeBron team.
Yes. Choppy early. And by the way, the last 5 years at the trading deadline in January, LeBron's teams have been bad. And then all of a sudden it clicks. Does everybody get what LeBron's doing now? He's working toward the second half of the season. He doesn't worry a ton about up to the trading deadline. He doesn't practice a lot, so he doesn't worry about that. And LeBron knows, I'm going to get into the playoffs.
Right.
It's about, do I have stamina? Am I ready to go? Do I have the chemistry post-trading deadline? Don't expect much from the Lakers in late October, November, December. They're going to be a tough watch. It's
literally the same every single season. We just haven't figured it out yet.
Yeah.
Finally, Austin Rivers knows what it's like to have a father that casts a long shadow. He was talking to TMZ, and Rivers gave Bronny James some short but hefty advice.
I can only imagine having LeBron James as my father. That's going to be tough. Any wisdom for the young man? Just focus on being the best him he could be. You know what I mean? He might, focus on trying to be LeBron James. I didn't focus on trying to be Doc.
It is good advice. I mean, it's tough because he literally has the same name, but he's going to have to kind of
Bronny
pave his own path. Yeah. Well, yeah, I think they're going to stick with pushing Bronny instead of LeBron Jr., but you just got to make his own identity. It's going to be tough for him though. Because I mean, can you imagine?
It depends on
even if he's a great basketball player, he's still going to get inevitably compared to his father.
You're going to get LeBron's DNA, so that tells me he's going to be a good player, and you're going to get Bron's expertise.
Right.
But again, this kid grew up in wealth. LeBron grew up in, if not poverty.
Right, he struggled.
Right. So you can't duplicate that for LeBron's kid. LeBron grew up struggling, 8 apartment complexes to like 14. This kid grew up on private jets and not struggling. I don't doubt the DNA thing, but Michael Jordan's kids grew up in a mansion. Michael Jordan grew up literally I saw a documentary on Jordan, like shooting balls into like a bucket in his yard when he was 8 years old.
There's a different level of struggle and motivation.
And that,
there for
to me, that's the difference between being an NBA guy and great, is that the struggle.
I mean, we have examples of guys. I mean, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson.
Yes.
They didn't grow up struggling.
No, you're
and
right.
There's Steph Curry is an all-time great. So it just depends on your work ethic and how that's put into you.
It is.
But also nobody, compares Steph Curry to his father anymore. He's just always going to have that shadow. But it is good advice to try and create his own identity, which I'm sure he'll be encouraged to.
Joy with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Live
News. It was an interesting day yesterday. LeBron opened a school in Akron, Ohio. And, Michael Jordan was great, and Michael Jordan sold shoes. LeBron, to me, tends to be bigger. He's trying to change the world. He's into politics. I think he'll continue to be, if not in politics, political. He's about educating young people in a community. I think LeBron's style of basketball is very much like LeBron's off-the-court mission. It's about other people beyond himself. Michael's always been about Michael. Michael was about scoring. Michael was not about passing. Michael's about building his empire. Michael's about Michael. His friends have never been great players. Michael doesn't talk now to Charles Barkley. Michael doesn't have LeBron as a friend. Michael's about people looking up to him. Michael's about his net worth. Michael's about Michael and scoring and taking. LeBron's more of a giver. He does it as a player. He does it as a teammate. He does it as a philanthropic guy. LeBron's a giver. Michael's more of a taker. They're both all-time greats. But it is interesting. I do think sometimes LeBron gave the NBA something this year. Not only did he create a school yesterday, which is amazing. LeBron gave the NBA something, and I don't even think I doubt he even thought of it. Maybe he did. I doubt it. But let's go back to 1995-96 when the NBA was at its peak. Michael had just won his 4th title. You had 7 teams in the NBA. This was the golden age of the NBA. The ratings were through the roof. Michael had won his 4th title. You had 70 You had 7 50-win teams. And that, if you look at the NBA in its heyday, Chicago, the Sonics, Orlando, the Spurs, Utah, Lakers, Indiana were 50-win teams. So you had a dynasty, but you had 7. A quarter of the league were excellent, formidable teams. And we were satiated by that. We were okay with that. We applauded the NBA for that. This team's got balance. Some of those were East. Some of those were West. When LeBron chose the Lakers, here's what we now have in the NBA. If you look at the odds to win the NBA title, Golden State, Boston, Houston, Spurs, Sixers, Toronto, Lakers, I would say are 7 teams that are at least in the 50-win category. Golden State, Boston, Houston, Lakers, Philly, Toronto. I think you can put Spurs in there because I still think they have a great coach, a couple of really good players, LaMarcus Aldridge, DeMar DeRozan. So in the heyday of the league, you had 7. This year, you have 6 to 7 really good teams. But think about this. What if LeBron, and by the way, the 7 in the NBA this year, 4 are West, Golden State, Houston, Lakers, Spurs, 3 are East. Toronto with Kawhi Leonard is going to be better than last year when they were the number 1 seed. Boston, Philadelphia, 4 West, 3 East. Very healthy. Very, very healthy. If LeBron goes to Houston, we have a 3-team NBA. Golden State, Houston, Boston. That's it. I mean, that's going to be it. Nothing against Philadelphia, but they won't have enough players. If LeBron had gone to Houston, we would have a 3-team league. It's not good for the league. It's too top-heavy. If he had gone to Philadelphia, it is now a 4-team league. Boston, Philly, Golden State, and Houston. Because Toronto could no longer compete. San Antonio would not be in the ballgame. And when LeBron chose the Lakers by not choosing a star-studded team, we are very much in the 1995-96 tunnel. 7 teams that can win a Super Bowl. I would say this in the NFL. We've only got 7 teams that can win a Super Bowl this year. Patriots, Steelers, Eagles, Packers, Falcons, Saints, Rams should be heavy favorite. I like the Chargers. I like Kansas City. I call the Giants a dark horse Super Bowl team. Minnesota is going to be very good. I don't think they're going to be a Super Bowl favorite with a new quarterback and a new coordinator. So LeBron probably inadvertently yesterday was giving a gift back, and I think that's who he is. He did the NBA a big favor. He did the NBA a huge favor. He gave them the gift of parity. Had he gone to Houston, we'd have a 3 to a 4-team league. If he went to Philadelphia, we'd have a 3 to a 4-team league. Right now, 7 teams, viable playoff teams. Same as it was in Jordan's era. Coming up next, Jim Jackson, Drew Brees next hour in Los Angeles. This is The Herd. We have some great Baker Mayfield video we're going to show today, Joy. Great Baker Mayfield video. When he was with us. He got filmed all day. He was doing a documentary, so he was filmed all day. And I saw the video yesterday. He may have released it. You can bring Jim Jackson out here. It was really incredible. I love documentaries. Jim, come on out. Jim Jackson. So I was telling my theory is that analytics have made basketball easier because it used to be a baseline-to-baseline game, especially for bigs. But a Kevin Durant and LeBron that have embraced shooting now shoot and score on the perimeter and now only defend on the perimeter. So when you watch LeBron James and Kevin Durant and their efficiency number the last 5 years, LeBron's getting older, so his efficiency number should dip because he can't jump as high or run as fast. But Durant and LeBron's efficiency numbers are going up, and my belief is you played in a league when you had to score at the base and defend at the base. Even guards. You were a big guard.
Yeah.
Right now, LeBron shoots a 3, he defends a 3. Every possession's easier. Do you buy that?
No, I do, but you got to broaden it more, too, because the game has changed in regards to, like you talked about, the analytics has taught us now that the three-point shot is more efficient. You need to have that more than a 2-point shot, especially a 15, 18-foot shot. Either a layup or a 3-point shot.
You're encouraged now to shoot it.
You're encouraged to shoot it. And I think because of the international impact on the game, now the court is more open. The bigs don't pound as much. Guys are not apt to – like I was a post-up guard, okay? Yep. That happens if you just happen to have a mismatch on the switch. You drop in real quick, and that's it.
4 times a game.
That's it. How many times do you see it? So I think – but the evolution of the game – I'm not one of those old guys, that played before that said, well, the game has to be like this. I'm like, it has to evolve. That's the only way the game is going to survive and continue to be as successful and popular. Look what happened to baseball. Baseball went through a period of time where it just was stagnant because they wanted to stick to the old ways. We're the national pastime, and we're not going to change anything. Well, guess what? Attendance went down, TV ratings went down, and a lot of kids didn't want to play anymore. But with basketball, the evolution of the game has now allowed guys who probably back in the day wouldn't be as effective. Now they can be effective because they can shoot the basketball.
Think about this. Analytics, who are the biggest stars in football? Quarterbacks.
Right.
Analytics have made it easier to complete passes, so it's helped the superstar.
Mm-hmm.
In basketball, the superstars are the wings that can score. It's helped them.
And point guards.
And point guards, because you can't put your hand on them.
Right.
So analytics are helping the football superstar and helping the basketball superstar. Analytics are hurting the baseball superstar because the superstar in baseball is the power hitter.
Right.
You can now shift. His ratings drop. It's home run or strikeout. And so that's why I said earlier, I would never pay for the baseball big free agent. That's a boat, rent it. But like I look at LeBron in his 16th year, last year, career high, triple doubles, rebounds, assists, games played, efficiency. It's not year 16. It's year 9. He had 2 dunks last year, which looked better than stuff 7 years ago.
Yeah. And you put into effect, too, the playoffs, the Olympics, playing. I mean, then he starts his workout sooner. All of these things. Now, he's been lucky, and we're going to knock on wood, he hasn't had a major injury, which a guy that plays downhill a lot, you think about something has to happen, hamstring, ankle, Achilles, knee, back, something. So he hasn't had to deal with that part of it. And even if he had some kind of minor injury, the technology today on rehabbing is so much different. When I sprained my ankle in 1994, no, you put ice on it, you held it up like this, and you sat and you try to take some anti-inflammatories, you did ultrasound, but the recovery process was different. Guys now, immediately something happens, the recovery process is a lot better. The training aspects are a lot better. You said it before. The dieting is a lot better. Heck, I would have some pizza, do some stuff around. All of that, I think it goes hand in hand with analytics and the way things are today and how athletes prepare themselves mentally, more important, physically. It's just totally different. And as a direct effect of it, the game is a lot purer. I think it's cleaner. Is more fun to watch.
You have to be more skilled today. You can't be, I rebound, I'm thick. Nothing against Ben Wallace, but if you can't shoot a 3 or you can't handle the ball, you got to do one of the two. You got to be able to handle the ball. Not everybody can create their own shot. If you can't handle a ball and you can't shoot, you become a liability on the floor.
Well, I'm not going to say you have to be more skilled. I think back in the day, you had to figure out ways. For me, when I played back in the 90s, there was a lot of skilled players because they weren't as athletic, okay? Maybe they didn't really beat you off the dribble a lot, but they knew how to get to their shot. Their footwork was perfect in regards to how to get their shot. So they were skilled in a different way. Now the young kids are trying to figure out, okay, my skill set is I got to be able to shoot the long ball, okay? I got to be able to beat a guy off the dribble and make a play. Before, a great skill player, I can post up and get down low. My footwork, I can get you inside, pump fake, jump hook, all. You don't have that. So it's shifted more to the perimeter skill set in regards to how do I beat my man and be as efficient off the pick and roll? Because if you can't run the pick and roll, forget about it if you're a guard. Forget about it. You got to be able to shoot off the pick and roll and make a pass.
Yeah. By the way, we have some Baker Mayfield video next hour that's sensational. We want to show you. I want to give you a little tease on that. It is. I was talking about LeBron in his 16th year in the league. Is like Warren Buffett always says, every generation has a better life. So think about this. The NBA in the 40s, 50s, 60s, you flew prop planes commercial. And then in the 70s and 80s, you flew jetliners commercials. And then in the late 90s, you had your private planes. Now players have private jets individually to travel and private jets for the team. So just think of aviation for the NBA player. There's a study recently that stewardesses and stewards on planes have a higher rate of cancer because of what being in the air 35 years in a plane, it beats up your body. We've gone from prop planes to private jets, and then each individual player, average NBA players, only fly private. It just doesn't beat your body up anymore.
It doesn't. When I tell people, when I came in the league with the Mavericks.
What year?
92.
Okay, so okay. 18 plus 8 is 24. Just 24 years ago.
We were flying commercial, American Airlines. And the bad part about it is we couldn't get frequent flyer miles, okay, at that time. So you couldn't benefit off of it, okay? You couldn't benefit.
Jim Jackson would walk on my flight. I'm an insurance salesman going to Boise.
Yep.
You had just played Isaiah Thomas the night before, and you're on my 6 a.m. flight.
It was amazing because what happened is, they would get the first class seats for the players, okay, right. And the coaches were sitting in the back. But yeah, you're sitting right there, just in the regular terminal. The thing was, you had to wait for your bag, okay, get your bag, put it on the bus, and then probably go to shoot around, okay, depending if it was a back-to-back. Keep in mind, if it was a back-to-back, you had to take the first flight out of that city the next day. Now, not all the time could you get all the first-class seating. So when we first got our quote-unquote private plane, we called it Airball. It was a refurbished, broken-down plane. We didn't know if we were going to make it. But, Colin, we were in heaven. It was just like, this is something totally new to finally be able to get.
You called it Airball.
Airball. Yeah, because we just didn't know if we was going to. It was raggedy, but it worked, man. And young kids don't understand today.
Oh, God, it's just.
They don't have a clue, man. You don't have a clue. The private plane stuff, man, it spoils you.
It's the Herd.
Yes.
This is the Herd. Wherever you may be and however you may be listening, live in Los Angeles, hour number 2, iHeartRadio, Fox Sports Radio, and FS1. Joy Taylor is joining me. Drew Brees is 30 minutes from now. 30 minutes from now, Joy Taylor, Drew Brees will stop by. So I was thinking about this. I read this story yesterday. Tom Brady talked to Gotham Chopra. We had him on the show, Deepak Chopra's son, kind of a philosopher, guru guy. And Brady got into this thing where he talked about that. He said, football is my entertainment. There's nothing I love more. I'm still playing it. I get out on the practice field, and it drives me. I love it. I guess that's what you could say. I found my conviction. It's football season. Let's go. And, I tell my wife this. Everybody's an aholic. I'm a little bit of a workaholic, but I'm like, it's 8.5 hours a day. I can't imagine waking up in the morning, going to work, and being miserable. I don't have a ton of hobbies. I have 3 things in my life that matter: my wife, my kids, my job. I have friends. I like to travel. I'm going to Canada in a couple of weeks with my wife. But guy with 7 hobbies, I've never found that guy to be as happy with somebody who finds something they absolutely love. And to me, don't complicate your life. Keep it real simple. Love my wife, love my kids, love my job. I'll figure out the rest of the stuff. I'll start whittling when I retire. I'll start putting in my backyard when I'm retire. But that's most of my life. I can't imagine getting up in the morning and knowing on Monday, crap, I got to go to work and I hate it. Everybody's an aholic. A workaholic's the healthy of the holic. Everybody's going to fall in love with something. Falling in love with whittling, you're going to live out in the country with caribou chasing you down because you can't afford a mortgage. At some point, I like work. And Tom Brady came out and said yesterday, this is what I love to do. I love football. I like talking about it. I like watching film. I like analyzing it. I like practice. I like playing. Good for you. And, I tell my kids this all the time. Find something you love. It's like a recipe. Find something you love, give it time. That's it. Equals mastery. After about 10, 15 years, you find something you love. You find whatever, I tell my kids, find whatever you want to find. It's up to you. You find what you love, but then give it time. Don't cheat it. Find what you love. Don't try to get happier than happy. Nurture it, love it, embrace it, live it, sleep it, kiss it, hug it, love it, and 15 years later, you've mastered it. Takes about 10 to 15 years in anything. Chef, artist, landscaper, whatever, educator. Love plus time equals mastery. And if you look around the NFL right now, Drew Brees last year set the all-time completion record, 72%. I watched Drew Brees last year, and I thought that's as good as I've ever seen him play. He fell in love with something. He's not a big hobby guy. He gives it time, and he's better as he ages. Go look last year at the passing leaders in the NFL. I'll give you their ages: 40, 36, 30, 39, 30, 36, 33. It's nothing against Deshaun Watson, Jared Goff, but when they step to the line, they're not masters. Matt Ryan's, Big Ben, Brees, Phillip Rivers, Brady, they're masters. You don't become a master no matter how talented you are. You don't become a master in 2 years. Deshaun Watson can't audible like Tom Brady. Carson Wentz can't audible like Drew Brees. They can't. They can't. And I'll never forget, Jay Glazer interviewed Tom Brady a couple years ago, and it was at camp. And Brady was brutally honest about how the game is actually now easier to him 18 years in.
I feel like I've worked hard to get to this point, So going into my 18th year, I've learned a lot. I've had the experiences, played the defense, played in the big games. And I still feel like I can perform at a really high level. So I think now this is the time to really start having fun. I mean, every time I go on the field, I feel like, all right, well, I know what to do. I know how to do it. I know where to go with the ball. And, football is in some ways easier now for me than it ever was because, it's just, I've been doing it longer. I've had the experience. And, hopefully that experience can pay off. Yeah,
he fell in love with it and he gave it time. I mean, Eric Mangini had Tom Brady his first year. Tom was younger. He was more athletic. He hadn't taken the beating. Tom Brady was this young, youthful athlete. Eric Mangini was there for the first camp. Here's what he said.
He had tremendous traits, and we kept 4 quarterbacks, and he worked at it, and a year later it was different. But we only scored 3 offensive touchdowns in that Super Bowl run in the playoffs. It's not like he was still Tom Brady at that point. People forget that. So he wasn't anywhere near what you'd hope he'd be his first year. And I think if he had gone to a different team, Colin, he may have gotten cut.
Yeah. It is, whenever I read stories about somebody like Brady that goes, I found my love. If you're a lawyer and you love law and you like going to work and you like debating it and analyzing it and writing books on it, don't feel guilty. There's plenty of room in this world for the guy that wants to be a chef and just a chef. And there's plenty, and he loves his wife and he loves his kids and he loves his job and that's his passion. You don't have to be a poet. You don't have to be a ski instructor on the side. You can love fewer things and love them more deeply. It's okay. It really is. I tell my wife all the time, I'm the happiest person I know. And I don't love a ton of things. I'm starting to love my cats, although they're very irritating. Yesterday,
you have multiple cats?
I have 2 cats. Yesterday, 4 in the morning, the fat one laid on my head and woke me up at 4 and I could never go back to sleep. So I'm out of love with my cat. I'm back into the like stage. But listen, if you're Tom Brady, what are you going to retire to? Golf? Do you want to be relevant? Do you want to be in the game? Do you want to be challenged? Football's hard, right? It's hard. People are chasing you that can bench press Rhode Island, and they're trying to squish you, and you're running from them and calling audibles. And I look at Brady, and I'm like, he's the Drew Brees is this. Phillip Rivers is this. Phillip Rivers came on the show and told me one time, I'll never forget this. He goes, I like practice more than games. He goes, oh, God, I love practice. He goes, I love building a game plan and watching film. He goes, the games, then you get nervous. Then there's anxiety. I love practice. Don't feel guilty if you don't have 13 hobbies. I love working out. Is that a hobby? I work out every day.
I think you can consider that a hobby or a necessity, depending on how you look at it.
I like to ski. And part of the reason I like to ski is I'm exhausted after I ski.
Well, yeah, but you don't ski every day.
No, 19 times last year. But I work out. Is that a hobby? I'm not guilty for not having a bunch of hobbies. If you want to have them, have them. The happiest people I meet fall in love with fewer things.
It's
Wife,
not a
kids,
weird
job.
concept that you would be good at something that you love. You're putting all of your energy into it. And that he is better now than he was when he was younger because he was still learning how to do it. He already knows how to do it. Like he said in that clip, he knows what he's doing. So now it's just a matter of going out and performing.
By the way, Drew Brees coming up after the break. There's Baker Mayfield is doing a documentary. 2 of the 4 parts have shown. One of the parts that hasn't shown, I'm not going to show it now. I'm going to show it after the break. One of the parts that hasn't shown is the day he had to do the interview here. It's great. And he really does a good job on this thing. So I'm going to show you that coming on after the break with Drew Brees before the end of the hour. Baker Mayfield has a documentary. It's 4 parts. We've shown 2. There's a part of the documentary, like I think it's the 3rd or the 4th one. It's not aired yet, and we're going to show you a special clip of it, and it's really, really good. I had not seen it until this morning, and it's fantastic. Can I just say this? Can I defend somebody for a second? I want to defend. So yesterday, he's a little crazy. Jim Harbaugh has told his players not to eat chicken. And he's told his players not to eat chicken because it's a nervous bird. Early in his Michigan tenure, This, according to Wilton Spate, his quarterback. Harbaugh pulled the quarterback aside and told him not to eat chicken. It's a protein that's considered fairly safe by nutritionists. When Spate asked why, Harbaugh said, because it's a nervous bird, and you shouldn't eat nervous birds. I don't have the scientific proof behind that, so I'm not going to dispute that. There's a lot of things we know about nutrition now that we didn't 10, 20 years ago. He may be on to the nervous bird thing. My family has an opinion on milk. We don't drink milk in our family. We're not a big milk family. I'm not going to get into specifics. We don't drink it. We've got a theory. I don't want to get into it in case I'm sponsored by a dairy company. Okay, but my family's not a milk family. We drink coconut, almond, soy, everything. We don't do milk. Okay, cheese a little, but no milk. So anyway, people are ridiculous on Harbaugh. There is no nuance on Jim Harbaugh. So everybody's like, Harbaugh's on the hot seat. Okay. You know what I believe in life. What did you inherit? As a president, as a football coach, what did you inherit? Brady Hoke was 6-10 in the Big Ten the last 2 years he was at Michigan. That's not even middle of the pack. He was crappy by Big Ten standards, and he was routed 7 times in 2 years in a half-filled stadium. Every third game, Michigan was getting destroyed. 20, 18, 34, destroyed. So they were below average in the conference. I don't want their overall record. Below average in conference, getting routed every other game. Jim Harbaugh's first year, he goes 10-3. He was the craziest play in college football from going 11-2. One play. I don't even know, do we have the play? He was one play against Michigan State, final play of the game from going 11-2. The following year, he goes 10-3. He loses on the last play in overtime to Ohio State, or he would have been 11-1 and going to the playoff. So, in review, crazy Jim Harbaugh, who everybody thinks is underachieving. 2 plays in his career, last-second plays, against rivals, bowl teams, good teams. Michigan State, Ohio State. Okay. Now at Michigan, he's 28-11 in overall, 8-8 in conference, but he's been bad against the rivals, right? 1-5. He's come within one punt play his first year of being 11-2. One play against the rival. He's come another play, second year overtime to Ohio State from being 11-1 and going to the playoff. Folks, can we have a little context? He took over a mess. They were 6-10 the previous 2 years in the Big Ten and been routed 7 times. Harbaugh, last year, the quarterback situation unraveled, and they were bad in the last month. It happens. But, yes, the crazy bird, nervous bird thing is a little out there. But, folks, San Diego, Stanford, 49ers, Michigan, within 2 years of both places, he'd absolutely turned around the program. I don't have to love his nervous bird theory. Can we have a little context? He is literally 12 seconds, 2 plays from being 3-3 against his rivals and having a trip to the national championship tournament.
I don't know if you could have dinner with Jim Harbaugh, though, Colin.
Well, he drinks milk with steak.
He drinks milk with steak. Which
grosses me out. I can't get. I'm not a milk guy, and
I'm not as crazy about milk. Like if I have to drink it or if I got to put it in coffee, I'll live. But I'm with you. I drink the almond milk also. But the milk with the steak is it's
gross. It just doesn't work at all.
That's a no for me.
Drew Brees around the corner and some Baker Mayfield video I've got to show you. I'm all for good sportsmanship. That's why we're huge fans of Hyundai. For the first time in like forever, the experience of buying a car is getting better. For Hyundai, Shopper Assurance Program is what they're offering. It creates 3 things. Transparent pricing. You know and can compare when you go to their site now what you're getting when you go. Number 2, flexible test driving. Test drive on your terms the day and the time you want and where you want to test drive. The other thing they're doing now, streamlined purchasing. You can fill out most of your paperwork online. Last but not least, 3-day worry-free vehicle exchange, which is all about stress-free exchanges if so desired. That's good sportsmanship. Right now, more information, HyundaiUSA.com/shopper assurance. From transparent pricing to flexible test driving to streamline purchasing without paperwork to their 3-day worry-free vehicle exchange. HyundaiUSA.com/shopper assurance. So Baker Mayfield has these, he's doing a 4-part documentary on Fox, and the 2 episodes Joey have aired. One of the things I've said before, I don't think he'll bust. He's got 2 things going for him. Number 1, he throws a really accurate football. I think his ceiling is lower than everybody else thinks. I think it's closer to Case Keenum, not Russell Wilson or Drew Brees, who are 2 of the Hall of Fame quarterbacks best I've ever seen play. But I do think he can play in this league. He throws an accurate football, and that's a big thing. The second thing is, and I like this, he has a chip on his shoulder. He talked about that in episode number 2 of the documentary.
Growing up, I watched how my dad worked. He wanted to give us every opportunity possible, and I think that's because he didn't have it when he was little. My mom works very hard. My brother obviously got it from both of them. And so I had that just from watching them, but at the same time, mine's different. I guarantee if you sat them down and asked them, they'd all agree that it's unique. It's not even a chip. I'd say it's a boulder. I don't like talking about myself, but that's the one thing I do have over people is motivation, how to get up in the morning and go work for something. Whatever it is, I'm thankful for it because it's one of the main reasons I'm here today.
He doesn't have a chip on his shoulder. He has a boulder. And I think this is a real thing. We've done this before. Now, don't get too caught up in the order I put quarterbacks. But I put down what I think to be, you could make an argument these are the 10 most talented quarterbacks in the NFL. I always say wait on Deshaun Watson because I don't know if he can stay healthy. But if you look at the 10 quarterbacks in the league, 9 of 10 have an understood chip on their shoulder. Tom Brady struggled to start at Michigan 6th round, chip on his shoulder. Aaron Rodgers had to go to a junior college. He dropped in the 1st round, chip on his shoulder. Drew Brees, high school player of the year in Texas. Texas didn't offer him. Either did Oklahoma, went to Purdue. Big Ben, Miami of Ohio. He wanted to be a Buckeye. They weren't interested. Russell Wilson, junior year at college. North Carolina State, after 3 great years, they told him, we're going to start Mike Glennon. What? He transferred to Wisconsin. Matt Ryan, no major offers. Boston College. Jimmy Garoppolo, no major offers. Eastern Illinois, had to sit behind Brady. Carson Wentz, North Dakota State. Phillip Rivers, no major offers. NC State. Came into this league, nobody knew who Phillip Rivers was, despite being a great college quarterback. The only top 10 quarterback in the league that I don't think necessarily has that chip on their shoulder is Andrew Luck. His dad played in the NFL. He was a coveted recruit. He wasn't a 5-star guy, but people knew who Andrew Luck was in high school. Then he went to Stanford. He's always been understood as really talented. Peyton Manning, I don't think, had a chip on his shoulder. We all knew Peyton was good in high school, college, and pro. Number 1 pick. Andrew Luck, number 1 pick. We knew he was good in high school, college, pro. 9 of the 10, I could argue, quarterbacks in this league who NFL execs rank in the top 10, 9 of 10 of them are either undersized, little slow, little short, not huge arms, overlooked, not major schools, not major conferences, or Tom Brady, you go to Michigan, and they don't give you the starting role. Even your last year, you're fighting for a starting position. Then in the draft, you dip. That's the 2 things I like about Baker. Accurate as heck as a thrower, and that matters. And that dude had to walk on twice.
Right. I think that's the biggest difference to me when people would compare him to Manziel. Because I always felt like even though Baker had some off-the-field issues, you can tell that Baker actually really loves football more than he loves whatever's going on off the field. And that was just the opposite for Manziel. Manziel, football made Manziel important, whereas football is important to Baker.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it. Johnny Manziel liked what football did for him.
Right.
Baker loves football.
Exactly.
And that's why I don't think Baker has bust in him. Now, I don't see this, people are throwing out Russell Wilson. I'm like, play ball. Slow down. He's not. That is totally unfair.
We have to know who to compare him to, Colin.
We always compare like size. It's like Baker Mayfield is a little Case Keenum where he can run around a little bit. He's not going to carry a franchise. He's going to need help and protection, but he's also small. He's going to have to throw through certain passing lanes. It's not going to be ideal for him. He's not Dan Marino's size. He's not Aaron Rodgers' arm. He's not Tom Brady's size, but I think Baker can work. Joy Taylor with the news.
No. Turn on the news. This is the Herd Line News.
So we spoke last hour about Charles Barkley's opinions on LeBron and the Lakers, and he also had some thoughts on Kevin Durant and the Warriors. He admitted that Golden State is pretty much unbeatable right now. which is going out on a little ledge there. But Barkley couldn't resist taking a few digs at Durant. He said Kevin Durant is just a really nice guy trying to be a bad guy. You can't do that. It doesn't work. He spends all his time trying to prove to people how tough and bad he is. He's so worried about what other people say.
Yeah.
Kevin Durant is a great player and a great kid. I don't know that Kevin Durant necessarily is trying to prove to people how tough he is. I think he just really wants no negative press whatsoever, and that's just not how it works. Like he wants to be considered on the same level as LeBron, and you don't get to sit on that throne, if you will, and not be criticized. Like with all the praise comes all the criticism. That's just how it works. You can't have it all.
He's not married and he has no kids, so he sits and looks at his phone all day. I think that's a big part of it. Like my kids, they'll sit there and stare at their phone because they don't have responsibilities as a parent and they don't have responsibilities as a husband or a wife. Kevin Durant's single, rich, and has no kids and nothing but time. And I think sometimes you just fall into this. You're staring at this. I've worked with people like this. You're staring at your phone all day. You know what I'm staring at my phone? Is the house on fire? How did my kids burn something? So,
right.
Yeah, I mean, Steph Curry's married. Steph Curry's got kids. LeBron's married. He's got kids. I think a lot of this stuff, that phone will eat your psyche alive.
I don't have a problem with him responding to people or even getting in his feelings. I definitely obviously had a problem with the burner account because that's just that you're just taking time out of your day to try and create something and respond to people. But I don't think that he's trying to be a tough guy, though. I think he just wants to defend himself. So speaking of guys who are never afraid to speak their mind, Marshawn Lynch, Beast Mode sat down with Matt Barnes in his new series called Same Energy and explained why he didn't always see eye to eye with Pete Carroll.
Pete Carroll, a rah-rah guy. And then I'm just somebody who tell me what I need to do, where I need to do it, how I need to handle it. I'm gonna get that job done, but don't give me no extra You know what I'm saying, though, at the end of the day, because of how he was and how I was, we probably didn't see eye to eye, but at the end of the day, we had the same vision in mind, which was to get to the championship. And we probably didn't agree with each other's ethics on how to get there, but we knew that they worked.
This is always the thing with Pete Carroll. That's just the story on him.
5 years ago, everybody loved Pete. How many people are calling out Pete now? Isn't it interesting? That kumbaya stuff, it has a shelf life. Like, if players start hearing the same stories I think John Gruden's got a lot of this.
Yeah.
John walks into a room, lives for football. Cross your fingers that players love it as much as he does. But, the Seattle thing now, this is like the third player comes out and says it's not working. There's too much noise with Seattle in the last 2 years. Way too much noise.
I would agree with that. I also think that type of mentality works for college, because you're going to have new players rotating through.
Yes.
So you can tell that same story.
Yeah, that's why Saban works.
That folklore of old that motivates and gets everybody all crazy. But when you've got professionals that are in their 10th year, bro, I've heard the story. I know. The ships on the shore, I get it.
Yes.
What is the game plan? I don't care.
Joy, that's a real thing, is that I always thought college football was easier to coach. First of all, there's very few elite college coaches. So half the time Nick Saban's going into games against the kid who should be a coordinator. So you're almost always going in with a coaching advantage. If you're a Pete Carroll in college, if you're a Nick Saban in college, if you're an Urban Meyer, you're a better coach. In the NFL, those are 55-year-old men who have been in the NFL for 30. There's no grad assistants.
Right.
Those staffs are better. The second thing, though, is in a player relationship, it's like dating players. Everybody's dating life, it's easy. If a player doesn't, okay, I got a new player I recruit next year.
Right.
Players leave. And the better the player is, the higher maintenance he is, he's gone sooner to the NFL. NFL, man, you get a guy for 9 or 10 years, Belichick and Brady now, with all their success, it's strained. They're both rich. They both have an opinion. They both see the world differently. College football coach, like Nick Saban just signed a contract extension. No kidding.
Well, and they have all the power in college. They're the program, not the kids. So it's a completely different dynamic.
Yes.
In the pros, the coaches are important, obviously, and matter, and everyone knows who the coaches are. They don't make all the decisions because there's GMs and there's presidents and there's owners and there's a scouting department that they may go to.
By the way, now NFL coaches have this anthem thing. So what if 7 players in your locker room our anthem
Well, if
guys.
it wasn't the anthem thing, it would be something else. There's always something going on. Like you have to sleep with your phone next to your head on vibrate and up full volume every day.
College coaching's a better life. NFL may be more rewarding if you win the big prize.
Right.
But
and the pressure is tremendous, obviously, because you can be fired like that. Whereas in college, they're not so quick to fire you because, like you said, there's not that many elite coaches to begin with.
Once college started paying close to what pros did, what's the point of going to the pros? I mean, unless you're like Andy Reid's been there 30 years, that's the game he knows. Belichick, same thing.
Right.
I mean, the only downside is recruiting. And let's be honest, if you go to one of these powers like Ohio State or Alabama, USC, Oklahoma, the brand sells about 75% of the kids.
Yeah. So finally, it appears the chemistry between Ben Roethlisberger and Antonio Brown did not skip a generation. This is really cute, Colin. During the Steelers training camp, the world was introduced to the next killer bee. Ben's son connected with Antonio Brown's son with the perfect pass. Look how cute they are. Oh. Isn't that adorable?
Yes.
It is so cute. One more time. I just wanted to show that video.
I love watching kids.
It's so cute. It's adorable. Training camp is so fun for like the players' families. The kids get to go out there. It's like a really good experience. They get to bring their kids down onto the field and do stuff like that. It's great for fans too. If you are a fan of an NFL team and you haven't taken your kids to training camp,
it's great.
You get so much like intimate interaction with the players. They're really like happy and involved. You get pictures. It's fun.
Yeah, I love. It was funny. I'm driving home yesterday. And I was listening to some, I don't even know who the person was on radio. I don't even know who it was. And they were ranting about, I can't believe we go from the NBA and we go to the NFL already. And I'm like, as a topic, and I'm like, of course we do. God, the minute I see camps, it's nothing against baseball. The Bryce Harper situation's fascinating, but we're in August. We got 2 months of the regular season. How do you watch these football camps and not get fired up? I am totally into football right now. Joy with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Lie News.
It's Drew Brees around the corner. Think about the impact Drew Brees has had on football. So Drew Brees wanted to be a Miami Dolphin, and Nick Saban wanted Drew Brees to be the quarterback. But the Dolphins' doctors would not okay Drew Brees' shoulder.
Yes.
Okay.
That was a bad experience for me, Colin.
Because of that, Saban goes to Alabama.
Yep.
If the doctors approve Drew Brees in Miami, we have no Alabama dynasty. The Saints don't win a Super Bowl. Tom Brady no longer dominates the AFC East because Saban and Brees are with the Dolphins. You wouldn't have 42 coaches fired in the South. Peyton Manning would have 3 Super Bowls. Brett Favre could have had a Super Bowl with Minnesota. And Russell Wilson and Baker Mayfield have largely been drafted because of Drew Brees' success. The impact, what is I've said this before about Steph Curry. LeBron's better than Steph Curry. But the big 4 in my life in the NBA and far as impact, Magic and Bird saved the NBA. It was a hurting league financially. Michael made it global with his shoes. And then LeBron's made it mobile as players now go team to team. If there's one more guy I'd include, it would be Steph Curry. Like Brees, maybe not the GOAT, but his impact on three-point shooting, getting rid of centers, revolutionizing the sport, is kind of hard to quantify. You would not have an Alabama dynasty because Nick Saban would have stayed in Miami. So is Drew responsible for 42 SEC coaches being fired?
You should run down that list with him. Like, here's the impact
we wouldn't have the greatest dynasty in the history of college football because Saban would have stayed in Miami with Drew Brees, and Drew's is joining us now. He is entering his 18th NFL season. I said this a couple days ago. I said, everybody talks about how long Brady's lasted. I thought you were as good last year, Drew, as I had ever seen you. I'd never seen you that good. Did you feel like audibles, shape, fluidity, coaching, do you feel as good as you've ever been?
I do. There's a lot to be said for experience, old age, and treachery. I feel like I'm at that point in my career where I'm very in tune with my training, very in tune with my body, my mechanics, my fundamentals. I love the locker room. You know, I love the guys that we've assembled here, both in a couple of these past draft classes and through free agency. And so, you know, I just feel like we're entering this window of time where we're going to have a tremendous opportunity. And I'm having as much fun playing football right now as I ever have. And I think last year, you know, obviously we had 3 pretty tough years prior to last year. And man, those were hard to deal with, hard to go through. And prior to last season, I kind of made a point to myself, you know, listen, I was going into year 17. I knew I was closer to the end of my career than I am to the beginning. And I told myself, you know, just enjoy every moment a little bit more. You know, like enjoy the locker room a little bit more. Enjoy the plane rides back from a big win a little bit more. You know, just take time to just kind of soak that up. Because I know that's really what you miss when you leave this game, you know, from all the guys former players that I talk with. And I know those are the things that you miss. And so, man, just stay in the moment. Stay in the moment and enjoy every second of it. Because when it's over, it's over. And I want to be able to look back and say, man, I gave it everything I could. But, you know, I had as much fun playing football last year as I ever have. And I really love our team and love the direction that we're headed right now.
Drew Brees, who I think is, I said yesterday, the 8 greatest quarterbacks in my lifetime that I've seen. And I go back to Terry Bradshaw. Drew Brees is one of those, and some of you push back. I think analytics has helped guys like LeBron extend his career because the big man now can shoot threes. The big man doesn't have to have a big man leaning on him. I think analytics is helping Drew Brees. And the reason I say that is it is a bubble screen league. It is no huddle. So your brain is now so valuable to this league. I almost feel like you're playing chess, and a Carson Wentz is great, but it's closer to checkers until about 3 more years. Take me to the academic side. When you walk to the line, does anybody throw anything at you that surprises you?
I mean, you play long enough, you feel like you've seen just about everything, you know? I think the key, obviously the key to our position is your ability to anticipate, right? To anticipate what's coming, to be a problem solver. You know, I mean, there's plenty of things that break down on any given play, and your job as a quarterback is to get the best out of whatever that situation or circumstance might be. You know, make sure nothing bad happens, get on to the next play, take advantage of the opportunities when they do present themselves. And then that's the thing, you know, that you look back on a game and they're always decided on just a few plays here and there. And if you were in a position to take advantage of those opportunities, in most cases you win those games. And so there is such a huge, I think, mental element to playing our position. You know, obviously there's a ton of traits that go into being a great quarterback. Certainly you have to have a certain amount of physical ability, but the mental side of the game and, you know, your ability to lead and to instill confidence in the guys in the huddle, you know, those are huge parts of playing this position.
You know, Drew, a lot of the great players in the NFL have a chip on their shoulder. They were overlooked. Half this league is undrafted players. You were a guy that was a Texas high school phenom, but you end up in Purdue because you probably didn't have 3 inches and 9 pounds or whatever for the Longhorns. But I get the chip on the shoulder. But once you're great, and money's not an issue, and legacy is formed, when you drive to work today, Drew, what drives you to give me last year? What drives you to look at film for another 9 hours today?
Well, I've been blessed with a pretty incredible opportunity, right? To be a professional athlete, to play professional football. I mean, this is something you dream about as a kid, right? So many kids have that same dream, and yet I'm the one that's able to live it out. And so why me? You know, I just don't ever want to take that for granted. I appreciate every bit of this. I value the relationships that I've formed with coaches and teammates and people along the way. And I know that this only lasts for so long. You know, I mean, I'm ancient in football years, but I'm still such a young person, you know, so I still have my whole life left ahead of me, you know, and so many things to look forward to, so many next chapters, you know, in my life to look forward to. But, man, you can only play this game for so long. Like, it's just this finite amount of time. And like I said, I know I'm closer to the end than I am to the beginning. I don't know how many years left I'm going to play, but I just want to make the most of every second of it. Because when I look back, I want to be able to say, man, I did everything I could, to be the best player that I could be, to be the best leader that I could be, to just value and treasure those moments.
Do you even remember your first training camp?
I do. I was with the Mike Riley coached San Diego Chargers.
Oh, good Lord.
2001 at UCSD in San Diego. That's where we had our camp. And I mean, that was, listen, I've got a lot of great memories from that time because, I was on a team with LaDainian Tomlinson and Lorenzo Neal and Junior Seau, Rodney Harrison. I mean, there were some names on that team, legends of this game, guys that had a big influence on me, were great mentors for me. Doug Flutie, I couldn't have imagined coming in the league with a better mentor at the quarterback position than Doug Flutie. He was the guy that I watched and looked up to because of all the things that you just mentioned. Like, you talk about a chip on your shoulder, and a guy who was constantly overlooked. And yet, still to this day, in my opinion, I think he's one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game at any level, because he played at a high level at every level, USFL, NFL, CFL, obviously Heisman Trophy winner. I mean, but he was the ultimate competitor is what he was. And so each and every day, I learned so much from him. So, those are the things I look back on throughout my career. And it's, man, having the chance to be around guys like that and hear the stories and watch them work and watch their approach and just, man, I just learned so much from those guys.
Yeah. Untuckit.com is a brand I've been wearing for 3 years. 2011, it was established, one of the fastest growing brands, retail brands in the United States. And if you like to wear your shirts untucked, you live down in New Orleans. You can't tuck shirts in down there, Drew. It's too hot.
No. Way too hot.
So untuckit.com, give them a plug.
Yeah, listen, I've been a fan of the brand for a long time now, and had the chance to invest in the company this offseason and really become a spokesperson and ambassador and face of the brand. And, it fits every aspect of my lifestyle, and that's what I love about it. And really my family's lifestyle, because Untuckit is not just a men's brand, but they have a women's line and a kids line. And so it's so awesome when I get to go to church and my kids are wearing the same shirts as dad. I mean, that's a thrill for them. That's a thrill for the whole family. But it basically fits every aspect of my life, whether it's a road trip with the team, a business trip, date night with my wife, playing around with my kids. Untuckit fits every aspect of my lifestyle, and that's what's so unique about the brand is they've got 50 different sizing options, to really fit people of all shapes and sizes, and it's really an unbelievable brand.
11-time Pro Bowler, a Super Bowl, a 32nd pick in the draft, played for the chip on his shoulder, and he has rewarded us with last year, I thought, as sharp, as shrewd, as elevated a season as he's ever had. Drew, I love when you come on the show. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks.
You bet. Drew Brees in the Herd today. We'll be back in a second. This is the Herd, hour number 3 in Los Angeles, iHeartRadio, Fox Sports Radio, and FS1, wherever you may be and however you may be listening. Joy Taylor is joining me for hour number 3. And to have Drew Brees stop by today as we get ready. We're kind of segueing. It's that segue time of the season. NBA's done. NFL, college football starting. Bryce Harper, the GM now for the Nats, says he's not on the market. Maybe that's a decoy, whatever it is. So you're kind of in that period in sports right now where you kind of cross your fingers as an NFL fan, college fan, hope nobody gets hurt. But let's start hour number 3. We are live in Los Angeles. LeBron did open a school yesterday, and he finally spoke about his decision to join the Lakers. So let's start right there. If you embrace technology, life's easier. All technology is created to make our lives easier. That's what it's created for. Take my wife. My mom back in the 40s and 50s would go to a butcher to get the meat and then go to a baker to get the bread. And then a decade or two later, they created supermarkets where you could go and get everything at once. And now the supermarkets have a little coffee place in it. You got bakeries. You got the butcher. They make sandwiches. Oh, the supermarket. Now, my wife doesn't even have to go to the supermarket. Occasionally, she'll have groceries delivered to her.
Oh, it's the best.
It's the best. And by the way, now we can have meals delivered to us. Not like in the 70s and 80s pizza. Meals. Oh, no, we don't get the ingredients. I mean, they're done. We just heat it up for 10 minutes or microwave it. Life is easier. My wife sometimes cooks at night because she's bored. She wants activity. It's so much easier. Every generation, life's easier as long as you pay attention. If you're going to be old, stick in the mud, rigid, build up walls, then life's not easier. It sucks. But if you're willing to embrace new stuff, life's much easier today. Planning a trip. I'm going on a trip in 3 weeks. It takes you 10 minutes. I can get the hotel. I can get the car. I can get the restaurants. I can get reservations. Just go to an app. It used to be an all-day schloid to book a vacation. Life is easier. So LeBron James opened up a new school yesterday. He was doing a bunch of talking yesterday. And I think everybody's freaking out about, guy, 16th year, the guy is shot. He was asked about his prime, and here's what he had to say.
I don't even look at it like that because I don't feel like this is one of the last years of my prime. I think that's another statistic number, and I've always been a part of beating the odds in life. So I don't feel like this is even a rebuilding year for us. We have an opportunity to do something that a lot of people don't think we can do, and we love the notion of it. It's another rebuilding year, and we don't have enough. So that will motivate the guys that we have. Anyway.
Okay, so LeBron's basically telling you, I'm not that old. Folks, we have 4 guys in the NBA. They're going to be in their 40s this year. 4! Dirk Nowitzki, Vince Carter, Manu Ginobili, and Jason Terry. In their 40s. And they're not LeBron James. Because here's what's happened in the NBA for big guys like Kevin Durant and LeBron James. Look at their efficiency numbers. They're going up, 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 up as they get older. Because the game is easier. It's like cooking at home now. If you're not rigid, if you watch analytics, learn to shoot, the game is easier. Think about this. It used to be for a guy like Kevin Durant or LeBron that you had to score down low on the baseline, and you'd have a big guy trying to block your shots and a 270-pound center leaning on you, and they'd have the forearms in your back, and you'd score. And then you had to go all the way back down the court, 97 feet, and you had to defend the basket. You had to defend the guy that you scored on. And he would lean on you, and he would bang on you, and he would... It's not a baseline-to-baseline league because of analytics. There is no reason to have centers on the floor if they can't shoot. There's no reason to have a tough guy on the floor if he can't shoot. So LeBron James doesn't have to go low. He shoots a 3. And then he no longer has to go all the way back down on defense and defend the post. He defends the 3. It has gone from baseline to perimeter to perimeter league. You score on the perimeter and you defend on the perimeter. Nobody's banging on you. How many steps, how much weight do you save on your body per possession in the NBA? I'm not talking per game. I'm talking per possession. LeBron and Durant. LeBron about 7 years ago started shooting 3s because LeBron's smart. He figured it out. I don't have to go low to score and take a beating. I don't have to go on the defensive end and defend at the other baseline. It's no longer a baseline to baseline league for big guys. It's a shoot at the perimeter and defend on the perimeter league. How many steps, how much weight do you take off your shoulders per possession? Look at LeBron last year. Games played, career high. Assists, career high. Rebounds, career high. Triple-doubles, career high. Without the beating. It's not a 97 to 97 league. It's a 37 feet to 37 feet league. You score outside and you defend outside. So every generation, if you embrace analytics, it's an easier life. Booking a trip, making dinner. As Joy said, it used to be you had to go to a butcher, then a baker, then the supermarket. Now, it comes to you. Meals now come to you. And for my daughter, it'll be easier than it is for my wife. There'll be some spaceship that'll drop it right into your kitchen. I don't know what'll happen, but it'll be something like that. Look at Kevin Durant's career. Look at his efficiency numbers every year. Field goal, 3-point, effective, plus minus. It's all going up, up, up. So when people say, oh, LeBron James, he is 33, let me show you a play. Does this look like a guy who's been in the NBA 16 years?
LeBron turned the corner. Inside! He made Yusuf Nurkic a screensaver. 15-14. The Kevlar bench is going nuts.
LeBron James with a dance to the hoop controls the hammer down.
29-26 LeBron. He rattled the building. That's what they came to see. My chair is shaking.
The reason LeBron can do that in year 16 last year is because he doesn't have to score at the rim very often. So when he does, he has that energy. All technology is created to make your life easier. That's what analytics do in sports. In baseball, they shift the players to a side so they don't have to move as much to catch the baseball that's hit. In basketball, it ain't baseline to baseline. It's 3-point scored, 3-point defended. LeBron is really inches off his prime, not feet, not yards, not meters. He is just inches off his prime. You know, the question, of course, is always, well, Michael Jordan had it harder than LeBron James, so that's why you have to trust your eyes. You have to look at players and go, like Wilt Chamberlain would have been able to play today, and Michael Jordan would be able to play 20 years. Not all players transcend eras. There are guys that played in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. You know, Bob Cousy's not playing in the NBA today. He's just not. He's not. Yeah, he endorsed cigarettes. You know, he dribbled with one hand. And people say, well, the nutritional standards, certain athletes, general rule in sports, bigger, stronger, faster, transcends eras. Quirky doesn't transcend eras. Quirky guy who had a niche, that doesn't transcend eras. Wilt, Magic, a 6'9 guard, Bird, a 6'9 guy, best shooter in the league. Those guys could play 30 years ago, 30 years from now, 100 years from now. But don't kid yourself. Size matters. I've always said one of the things LeBron has that others don't, he's just bigger and stronger. Terry Bradshaw was just 6'4", 250 with a rocket arm. He'd play today in the NFL. Terry Bradshaw would play today in the NFL. Troy Aikman play anytime. You find me a guy that's 6'4", 240, and can throw the ball 60 yards into a keyhole, they can play in any era. There's a lot of guys in the NFL right now that are benefiting because the league is easier now. Football and basketball. By the way, baseball right now, there's a lot of guys playing in the bigs that are AAA baseball players. They're benefiting from we have 6 too many teams. There's a lot of non-major leaguers in the major leagues right now. And every time baseball is going to expand 2 more teams. So don't get me wrong. Not very many guys in the 50s could play today in sports, in any sports. I mean, Jim Brown could play today. Dan Marino could play today. Lawrence Taylor could play anytime. But the sports today is also elevating certain guys who couldn't play years ago. There's just no question. It's easier to be a quarterback today. It is. I mean, let's be honest about it. It's a bubble screen league. You don't need a huge arm today. I mean, we don't even talk about arm strength. It's not even a topic anymore. That used to be the thing. Can he make NFL throws? That's not the issue. The issue now is, can you go to the line with 3 plays in your head and cognitively spit them all out? If you can't do that, you're not a quarterback. You can throw the ball from here to Delaware. It doesn't matter. Bucky Brooks around the corner, NFL Network, former scout, former player. Everybody knows Untucked Shirts. Drew Brees on, just talking about them. Replace the sloppy smock look of an untucked dress shirt. Yes, tall guy, short guy, wide guy, long torso guy. You don't have to be a dude that comes out of a magazine to look good in Untucked Shirts. Fit perfectly no matter your body type. Thin, wide, tall, short. They've mastered the proportions that determine how shirts fall. Now they have the new relaxed fit option for bigger guys who want the same polished casual look. 25 retail outlets in America currently selling the latest in spring styles. They've already jumped over the fall. All you got to do, untuckit.com and put in the code HERD, H-E-R-D, to get 20% off. All your orders, not just your first. Regardless of shape and size, unsmock yourself, untuck yourself, unslop yourself. Untuckit.com, the promo code is HERD, 20% off. There are retail outlets in America, regardless of your size, width, and body type. Untuckit.com, code HERD.
Saturday, baseball's best rivalry is on display when Giancarlo Stanton and the second-place Yankees take on Mookie Betts and the first-place Red Sox in a huge AL East showdown. Then Mike Trout and the Angels battle Francisco Lindor and the Indians. Coverage begins at 3 Eastern, noon Pacific on FS1 or stream it live on the Fox Sports app.
Trade deadlines today, 4 Eastern. Bryce Harper on the market, not on the market. I love Bryce Harper, but it would be really hard for me to put an 8-year price tag on Bryce Harper. Somebody will, and my favorite player in baseball, but I said it earlier, I like the idea of renting these great players like Aroldis Chapman and Manny Machado and Bryce Harper. Here's a couple of prospects. I can rent them for a few months. And, I compared them to boats. You rent boats. Don't own a boat. It's a depreciating asset. Rent it. Have fun. Get great memories. But I don't want to be locked into paying for a boat and mooring and gas and all that stuff for the next 10 years. And I love Bryce Harper, but these big baseball free agents, those contracts, halfway into them, nobody wants them. Look at Robinson Cano. Mariners are paying a fortune. They're writing a check every 2 weeks. He's not available to play. The Seattle Mariners today would get out of that Robinson Cano contract. He's going to miss the whole season. It's ridiculous. He's my favorite guy. We bring him on regularly. NFL draft, then a scout, now an analyst, NFL Network. He's our friend Bucky Brooks. I'm going to throw two things at him. As a player, a scout, I lean on you for personnel and also theoretical what's happening. So I have Stephon Diggs, never been a 1,000-yard receiver, huge extension, $40 million guaranteed. Brandon Cooks, 3 teams, 3 years, massive extension. Khalil Mack, crickets. Aaron Donald, nothing. Earl Thomas, zip. It seems to me, and I'll just throw this out there, sports are cyclical, and there's copycats. When multiple star defensive players, the Raiders don't appear to be interested. Something's going on here. What culture has been undermined, overlapped? What's happening here for defensive players?
For years, we heard defense wins championships. Well, now the shift is changing. It is all about the offense. It's all about the passing game. It's all about playmakers and passers. And so what we've seen, and you just have to follow the money. In recent weeks, we've seen Ty Gurley get his money.
Huge.
As a big-time playmaker, as a running back / wide receiver. We've seen these receivers who guys are like, oh, my God, Sammy Watkins, Brandon Cooks, Stephon Diggs,
huge
Jarvis
deals.
Landry. All these guys are getting money at the $16 million mark. What it's saying, executives have looked at the league, and they're seeing the easiest way to win games is to throw the ball all over the yard. We looked in the playoffs. We saw top defenses getting shredded. Early in your show, I saw you put up the stats with Jacksonville, and all those top quarterbacks had their way with their defense when it comes to the way it looks statistically. Teams are now going all in on investing in quarterbacks, playmakers, and pass catchers, and that's where it's shifting. And I think we like to look at the New England Patriots as trendsetters. Well, a couple years ago, they let Chandler Jones walk right out the door.
Yes, they did.
Trade him away to the Arizona Cardinals. What did Chandler Jones do last year? Led the league in sacks. When you look at the way the Patriots go about their business, they focus on scoring defense, red zone defense. Look, you can have all the yards between the 20s. We're going to bog down inside the 20s and make you kick field goals. They finished 5th in scoring defense and went to the Super Bowl. What teams are beginning to realize, maybe we'll put all our chips in to the offensive side of the table. We'll hope that we can just hold them to field goals and see if we can win by outscoring people rather than trying to have a top-notch defense and really investing heavily in these top defensive players.
You know, the Raiders are a quirky organization. They have the poorest owner. It's a lame duck franchise, not good stadium revenue. Is there something else beyond Khalil Mack? Because from 2 reports now, they're not even close. Like, not even close. Like, is there something? Because the Raiders are almost like their own island in this league. From a revenue standpoint, like most teams have massive game day revenue. What is the Raiders' Khalil Mack? Is that even something different than what you just explained?
It could be. Outside of maybe Coach Gruden not valuing defenders or pass rushers at a premium. Look, when you pay a big money deal, like a deal that Ty Gurley got, the money that's guaranteed has to go into escrow. So if you think about buying a house and they hold your money because they want to make sure that it's there at closing, all of that stuff applies when it comes to a guaranteed deal. So if we sign Khalil Mack to a deal that guarantees him, let's say $80 million, $80 million has to go into an account that the league holds in funds. And so you have to have enough cash to be able to do that. One of the advantages that the LA Rams have, man, Stan Kroenke has a lot of cash, a lot of liquid. If he needs to drop money in the bank, it doesn't really affect him. So I do think it could be a situation where you're the Oakland Raiders. Maybe you don't have enough cash to do one of these big money deals, and it's more advantageous to have Khalil Mack play on his option, then a franchise tag, then another franchise tag, because you only have to pay those out as it comes, as opposed to putting a bunch of money in the bank to make sure that you have the guaranteed money that you need to sign him to a deal.
I've never heard that explained. Basically, Stan Kroenke's the richest NFL owner. He can write a check for $45 million, put it in the bank. He's got it at his disposal.
It doesn't affect him like it affects some ownership groups. Teams that have a lot of cash, a lot of liquid, they can do these deals and not blink. That's why you've seen those checks kind of flying off the
Oh, my
desk
God. It's like the
in
Rams
LA.
are in a different banking system.
Yeah, I mean, they understand it, and they're also doing a great job of manipulating the fact that they have Jared Goff on a rookie deal. Jared Goff doesn't really come due to 2020. So for the next 2 years, they can sign everybody, put all these guys on deals, and find a way to do it. The other thing that they've done, they're signing them to extensions. So Brandon Cook's money doesn't really kick in, not this year, but next year. Todd Gurley has 2 years left on his original deal before that extension kicks in. So they're kind of pushing the money out, but making the players happy because they know they have long-term security.
I have always strongly supported people who come from tougher situations. Your son and my son, I don't know your background, but my son, it's going to be easier for him than it was for me.
Right.
Your son is probably going to have opportunities that you didn't have.
Right.
So when I listed the 8 best quarterbacks I've ever seen play. I didn't put Aaron Rodgers on, but I put Drew Brees on. And the reason is Drew had to put a horrible franchise on his shoulders. Aaron and Steve Young, who I have right off my list, walked into great situations. Good scouting departments, decent O-lines, momentum of winning, positive, optimistic cultures. To your point, good cash flow. So I do give Brees, who I think maybe historically is a notch below Aaron, I mean, barely an inch. But to me, Drew's had to overcome more. By the way, they've in the last decade had some weird ownership arguments. I don't have Aaron in there, and I got big pushback yesterday. Is my list outrageous to you?
It's not outrageous the more that we talk about it, because what Aaron Rodgers is going to be measured against will be the quarterbacks of this era. And I saw in the previous segment, it talked about like he needed to win another ring or two to kind of be in that conversation. Because what happens, Ben Roethlisberger has a couple rings. Eli Manning has a couple of rings. Aaron Rodgers has been to one Super Bowl, and look, he will play longer. Historically, statistically, he's going to be in that mix. But you would like to think the best quarterback of this era is able to win more rings and maybe get his team to more Super Bowls. It's almost like the debate LeBron and MJ. We can celebrate LeBron's greatness, but those who are in the MJ camp always point to, well, look at his rings. Kobe has 5 rings. MJ has 6 rings. He only has 3. And even though we're like, look, man, this dude has gone to 8 straight finals. He's 9 finals appearances, 3 and 6, whatever. With Aaron Rodgers, some of that will kind of fall into the argument whether he deserves to be in the all-time greats list. As you talk about the top 8, they have to win a little more to kind of cement his status as one of those all-time greats, even though we recognize him as an all-time great player.
People push back on Troy Aikman. They said, well, he works at Fox. and I said again, one of the advantages to being in your 50s and doing this for a living is I saw Troy's team play. I don't need YouTube. I saw Terry Bradshaw play. People don't understand back then, like in the Terry Bradshaw years. Yes, Terry had terrific teams around him. It was harder to be a quarterback. There was a different world you lived in. First of all, the NFL allowed all sorts of late hits. Mm-hmm. You were hurt constantly, cheap shots. You could head slap offensive linemen. You were under. You go look at old videos in the 70s. Terry Bradshaw, guys would pick him up and drive him into the ground. You were always hurt. It's a bubble screen league. Brady's rarely smoked. About twice a year, Tom Brady gets smoked. Ndamukong Suh smoked him last year. And you're like, whoa, that is. Bradshaw got that on a weekly basis. Is there ever been, when you start looking at these quarterbacks now, obviously it's easier for the veterans, like Drew Brees was on earlier. Tom Brady last year said to Jay Glazer, he said, it's almost like you master it. Like, I've seen everything. When you watch Brady, do you sense that?
Oh, yes. I heard that conversation. You talked about Brees, and afterwards you talked about the top passers in the league, and all of them were a little older.
Yeah.
The Phillip Rivers, the Ben Roethlisbergers, the Tom Bradys. Because in anything that you do, experience really matters. When it comes to playing football. In high school, when you play as a freshman or a sophomore, the game is much faster than it is when you're a senior. It slows down.
Right.
Well, if you're a quarterback playing in the National Football League and you have 15, 16, 17 years of experience, you have seen everything. The game is in slow motion. You are really having fun because you know it's coming, and the fun comes from winning. He wins every day at the line of scrimmage. And, in fact, those guys have played so long that they're able to play the game in a way that you talk about Bradshaw and Marino and others. They can call their own plays. They can manipulate the game and control the game at the line of scrimmage. So, yeah, for Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Phillip Rivers, it's fun for them because it's slow. They understand it. They know they can beat you with their mind. So even though their physical skills may start to diminish, their mental acumen is so high that they can play beyond their talent physically.
You know, it is interesting. Brady had a quote. He said, football is my passion. It is my hobby. Were there ever times when you were scouting players, because you were a scout for a couple of different teams, the Panthers and the Seahawks, and by the way, you built good rosters. Those were good rosters that you built, that you passed on a player because he had interests outside of football, that he wasn't all in? Did you ever sense that when you interview players?
Well, you want people to love football. Like, you want them to absolutely love it. Like, you want it to be like the thing that they're passionate about, they're focused on. It consumes them in terms of their obsession to be great. It doesn't mean that you can't have guys that are not well balanced or they have other interests outside of it. You just want to know that football is the priority. Now, the thing that you bring up when you talk about Tom Brady and Drew Brees, you can tell they're all about it. They're the first one in, the last one out. And when you think about quarterbacks in particular, you can't really have quarterbacks that have a bunch of interest outside of it because it's so hard to be great at it. So you have to be very, very careful that it's the priority and they're going to devote so much time to it because it is really hard to be a great one.
Cam Newton told me I interviewed Cam about 10 years ago. And he just broke into the league. It was his rookie year, and he put on like 15 pounds. And he goes, in college, I didn't have to sit in a film room. He said, I ate chocolate pretzels for hours. He goes, you just sit in that room, and I'm just knocking down bags of chocolate pretzels. And he goes, I looked up, I gained 25 pounds. He goes, in college, you can just, high school and college, Cam Newton, hike me the ball, can ad-lib a lot. He goes, in the NFL, you're in film rooms. You know, it's funny, I wrote a chapter in one of my books about this. Everybody talks about work-life balance. I don't benefit if my producer, John Goulet, has a balanced life. I only benefit if you're a workaholic. This phone was created by a workaholic. Everybody wants to have a work-life balance. I want Kobe Bryant. I get no benefit out of my producers wanting to get off and go sail today. I hope they want to sail to the editing room and do more homework for the show. I like when Brady says I have no hobbies, people would say, "Oh, I mean, that's no life." But if you don't, football's the only practice. Think about this, Bucky. Football's the only sport you practice 6 times more than you play. If you don't love it, you're wasting my time.
You have to love it. We go all over the country with Nike, the opening Elite 11. And one of the things that I constantly talk to the kids about, as a scout, what you're looking for, blue chip talents with blue collar mentalities.
Oh, that's good.
What you would ultimately like is a guy that is as talented as they come. 5-star player with an underdog mentality, meaning he's going to be the first one in, last one out, all of those things. So if you're able to combine that 5-star player with a walk-on attitude, you're going to get greatness. And so when you think about Tom Brady, Drew Brees, the guys that have been really successful, it's because they feel like that. No matter what, you talked about the chip on their shoulder, no matter how great they perform, they're always thinking about the snubs that have kind of come along the way. And they're always fighting against whoever told them they couldn't do it, whoever told them they couldn't be great. There's a level of insecurity there that drives them and motivates them to work and outwork the competition.
By the way, Nick Saban years ago, USC called Nick Saban, and they said, would you come here? And he was already at Alabama winning. And Nick said, California kids are different. He goes, they have too many interests. He goes, they grow up on the beach. They have pro teams. He goes, I recruited an L.A. kid. He's on his phone. He goes, the Southern kid loves football, lives for football. Yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. They are all in my tunnel. He goes, you go to these cities, Austin, Texas, USC. There's too much to do. He goes, the kids have too many interests. And Saban told USC. He goes, I could not duplicate what I do at Alabama. I couldn't duplicate it at USC. Saban's smart enough to get it.
Oh, it's different. Then it's different. Now, I grew up in the South. I grew up in North Carolina, going all over the country as a scout and then working with high schoolers. You see the differences. And look, primarily the guys are coming from 3 or 4 different states, California, Texas, Florida, but somewhere in that deep South, that's where you're seeing, like, particularly the big guys and whatever. Yeah. And in the South, football is king.
King.
It is king. It is the only option. It's the only thing people are talking about. They're consumed by it. They're playing it year-round, 7-on-7 and the like, and it's a difference. And there's a different kid that comes from the South than from California. Now, I will say, skilled guys and quarterbacks, California is a hotbed.
California is a great quarterback state.
Sophistication, passing game is advanced. The weather allows you to do it year-round.
Yeah.
So there are advantages to finding those guys. Your skilled guys you can find in California, Florida. But when you're looking for big guys, guys that control the trenches, you have to go to the South, particularly for defensive line.
I just think, listen, there's nothing wrong. When you're in the South, you turn on a radio, they are talking recruiting in February.
Oh, it's everything.
In L.A., I turn on the radio here. They don't talk high school football. They barely talk college football. So football in the South is king, and that's why. By the way, one thing that matters in sports: why is soccer so great in England and Spain? Because it matters more.
Yeah.
Like if you go anywhere in the country and find the sport that's great, country, region, province, whatever, in hockey in Canada means more. So when a kid grows up, his dad loved it. His grandpa loved it. Your brother loves it. Your mom loves it. You feel like a pressure, like you got to perform. And I think sometimes in California, it's just there's too much to do for kids. They're distracted. Bucky Brooks, good seeing you, man.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Joy Taylor with the news.
No. Turn on the news. This is the Herdline News.
All right, we might see a bounce-back season for Joe Flacco, Colin. At least it sounds that way with the buzz around Ravens camp. Peter King summed up Flacco's summer surge by saying, one longtime Ravens observer told me here Thursday that this first week of camp for Flacco has been far and away the best he's looked at camp in his 11 years as a Raven.
A lot of people speculated that they drafted Lamar Jackson to push him. Listen, we know he was great in that contract year. Remember the playoff run he had?
Oh, yes.
Some people are self-motivated. Other people need to be nudged and pushed, and maybe Flacco's that guy.
You know, RG3 sitting behind him. You've got Lamar Jackson. He's got the heat on him now.
How about that? You know, I had a little.
I don't really like that, though.
Well, no, it doesn't. It's not one of my favorite traits from people, but I was told this 2 years ago, that people in Baltimore were frustrated with Flacco because they watched the commitment that Brady had in the offseason, and Flacco just disappears. And he doesn't put the time in. He works his way into shape once he gets to camp.
Right, you don't want that from your quarterback.
Tom comes into camp in shape. And, you know, you would look at Brady, and a lot of the Raven people were like, well, that's Tom. Tom comes ready to play.
Right.
So now Lamar Jackson's ignited a little pressure on Flacco. I think it's a good thing.
It is a good thing. It's just not, like you said, it's not my favorite trait. You know, you got to be a little self-motivated at that spot. You're the leader of the team. You got to come ready and be committed all offseason as well. So Conor McGregor is preparing for his return to UFC. He was seen using a unique workout to get himself back into shape. TMZ Sports got footage of Conor training in New York City's Central Park. And that's a person. That's a man that he is doing squats with.
That's pretty impressive. I got to be honest with you. You know what? I just got invited to the UFC fight Saturday. I'm thinking of going with my wife.
Have you been to a UFC fight?
Oh, yeah. I've been to 2 of them. Look at that. That's pretty impressive.
I'm ready for Conor to get back out there.
Listen,
he's likely going to fight Khabib. He hasn't fought since November of 2016.
That's a pretty impressive. That guy he's lifting has a bunch of hair on his back. That's freaking me out.
Yeah.
I'm not into that back hair guy.
Not going to try and bench press somebody?
That is a pretty impressive workout by Conor. I got to give him credit. It's a 200-pound man.
It's ridiculous. Finally, Jay Gruden had a bit of a slip during his presser this morning. Let's take a listen.
The object of playing quarterback is getting the ball to the open guy and the right guy, and Alex is doing a pretty good job of that right now. So is Colt, and so is Kevin for the most part.
Washington has a real problem with their quarterbacks' names, especially getting them right. Do you remember this, Bruce Allen?
Yeah.
Oh, it's my favorite.
Yeah. Alex Smith, everywhere he goes, he wins.
Kurt is obviously an important part of our organization. Our goal was to sign Kurt. We made Kurt an offer. We have not received any offer from Kurt's agent this year. Kurt has made it clear to me
Of course you haven't. You can't even get
that
the
he
dude's name
prefers
right.
to play
Kirk.
on a year-to-year basis.
Kirk.
That's bad.
So good.
I still, you know what? I like Washington, but Sean McVay left. It's never quite been as slick offensively. You see how good McVay is with the Rams. You can't lose a guy like that out of your room and think we're the same organization. Every company has employees. You may not notice it, but they have averaged 80 fewer yards since Sean McVay left. And in that division, and in the NFC, 80 yards and 3 points is the difference between 8 wins and 6 wins.
We have the Giants this year, right?
As my dark horse Super Bowl team.
Yep.
Joy of the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Lie News.
Best for last. I've made Jim Harbaugh mad once. I may do it again. That's coming up next. When you're ready for a new car, Hyundai's on your team. Shopper Assurance Program. They've got transparent pricing, flexible test driving, streamlined purchasing, and a 3-day worry-free vehicle exchange. Be part of the team Hyundai. Go to HyundaiUSA.com/shopper assurance. Be a good sport. Sportsmanship, fan of Hyundai's new Shopper Assurance Program. Flexible test driving, transparent pricing, streamlined purchasing. HyundaiUSA.com/shopper assurance. Had Drew Brees on today. I was defending Jim Harbaugh earlier today. He came out with a crazy quote about chicken. And you shouldn't eat chicken. It's a nervous animal. And I've said it's just people are so hyperbolic. The media, political media, mainstream media, sports media, nobody offers any nuance. If you look at Jim Harbaugh, took over a program that was a mess. They had been blown out 7 times in 2 years. They were 6-10 in the Big Ten. He's gone 28-11, 18-8 in conference. The Big Ten's never been better. Now you look at the Ohio State-Michigan State record. You say he's 1-5. He's 12 seconds from 3-3. 2 plays. His first year he goes 10-3. This play, that year, last play of the game, guy takes a knee. It's over. Or they're 11-2 his first year. From Brady Hoke's mess to 11-2. That play. So really, he can't coach now. That fumble by a kicker. Nothing you can do in coaching. The guy catches it, punts it. Jim Harbaugh's 11-2 from the disaster he took over. The next year, he's 10-1. He would have been 11-1 and gotten into the college football playoff. But in overtime, he lost on this play to Ohio State on a ball mark. And a marking that was widely disputed. If he gets an inch from the officials here, they win it, go 11-1, and they get into the playoff. And that was a widely disputed, multiple-day talking point in our show. And now he can't coach. Those 2 plays, a punter drops the ball, nothing Jim can do about it, and an official doesn't give him a good mark. And if he gets those 2, he takes Brady Hoke's mess and goes 11-2, and the following year he's 11-1 heading into the playoff. And you don't think he can coach? A ref's spot and a dropped snap. And with that, we go best for last.
After almost 3 hours, Colin apparently hasn't gotten to the point yet. Quit holding out on us, cowherd. It's the best for last.
Now, he is a little quirky. According to Bleacher Report, former Michigan quarterback Wilton Speight says that Harbaugh once warned him about the dangers of eating chicken. Early in his Michigan tenure, Harbaugh pulled Speight aside and told him not to eat chicken, a protein that is considered fairly safe by nutritionists. Speight asked why. Harbaugh said, because it's a nervous bird. Okay, that's kooky. But he may be right. There's a lot of things we know about nutrition today that we would have rolled our eyes 10 years ago at. So my staff said, it's not the weirdest thing he's ever said. And I'm like, that the chicken's a nervous bird? And he goes, oh, no. Harbaugh's got like 10 different wacko sayings. And I'm like, well, he's kind of a quirky personality, but I like quirky personalities. I like quirky people. And so we're going to play a game called Harbaugh or Harbull. Which of these did Jim Harbaugh say, and which of these are just made-up quotes from somebody else? Here we go.
It's It's time to play the game that's so fresh and new. We literally just made it up during the last commercial break. Harbaugh or Harbull?
Okay, here we go.
All right. The start of spring. It's like coming out of the mother's womb. You are out into the chaos.
The start of spring, it's like coming out of the mother's womb. You are out into the chaos. That feels very Harbaugh to me.
Correct. That is Jim Harbaugh. He said that the start of spring practice at Michigan in his first year there.
Okay, I'm 1 for 1.
Never give a sword to a man who can't dance.
Never give a sword to a man who can't dance. No, I'm trying to think how that would play in football. Never get a sword to a man who can't dance. I'll say he said that too.
Incorrect. That is Harbull. The internet attributes that quote to Confucius, but that is unconfirmed.
Okay.
I don't take vacations. I don't get sick. I don't observe major holidays. I'm a jackhammer.
I don't take vacations. I don't get sick. I don't observe major holidays. I'm a jackhammer. I don't think he would say I'm a jackhammer. Joey, I don't buy that he said that.
I don't know. That sounds suspiciously like a movie quote.
All right, what?
That is incorrect. It is Harbaugh. He said that while coaching at Stanford.
I'm a jackhammer? Okay. All right.
Okay. If worms had machine guns, birds wouldn't be scared of them.
What?
Harbaugh or Harbull?
Yep.
I'm going with Harbaugh on that one.
Okay, I'll go Harbaugh on that one.
Correct. He did say that.
It also makes no sense.
Yeah.
We took it a little out of context. He was saying how he didn't like hypotheticals, and that was his example of a hypothetical.
Oh, okay.
Okay, but birds eat worms.
Very weird with it. All right, if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it is stupid.
I think by even Harbaugh standards, that's too random.
Yeah, I'm going to go no. I'm going to go Harbull.
Harbull. That is correct. It is not Jim Harbaugh. Albert Einstein, apparently that quote is attributed to him, although our researcher found several places that said he didn't say that.
Okay.
But Harbaugh didn't say it, so
Okay.
that's the whole point.
All right, we have 2 left.
The football gods have provided us heat and sun to shape the body and carve the mind.
That's either Aristotle or Jim Harbaugh.
I'm going Harbaugh on that one.
Yeah, that feels Harbaugh'ian.
Correct. That was Jim Harbaugh. He said that 2015 before the Citrus Bowl in Florida.
I love that quote. Finally.
I love people. I'm a people person. I think that's a strength of mine. I love being around people.
I mean, that doesn't even sound that strange.
I don't think that's him, though, is it?
I'm going to go Harbaugh.
I'm going to go not Harbaugh.
Joy is correct. Jim Harbaugh did say that in an interview with Bleacher Report in his last year with the 49ers.
Really? He seems a little bit like a loner to me. Maybe he's a people person, but he's a little alone when he's with people because he's in his own mind. He's in his own head with stuff. Jim Harbaugh or Harbull.
He's a big believer in the red meats.
Yes, he loves red meats. He doesn't like chicken. It's a nervous bird. My wife went vegan several months ago, so it's changed everything. Not all for the good. The other day, she was cooking just a little chicken for me, and she was like this. She was like, "It's just gross. I can't look at it." And I'm like, "You ate it your whole life. Like 6 months ago, now you can't look at chicken?"
Well, once you break the habit of it, I could understand.
Yeah, I'm okay with vegan, except when it comes to chili. Add meat. Because if you do chili, vegan chili, it's just salsa. It's really disappointing. It's just nothing but corn.
That is a good point.
Yeah, it's bad. No, the Harbaugh thing, it cracks me up. Listen, anybody in life that's successful for 25 years, I give him the benefit of the doubt. Okay, he won at San Diego. He won at Stanford. He won in the 49ers. He's winning here. Like, you think he got stupid? Like, I never understand the internet. Like, if somebody's successful for 20 years, I've been doing this for 20 years. I'm pretty good at it. You're just going to have to come to terms if you don't like me. I'm pretty good at it. You do something for 20 years. You're a dentist for 20 years, and you have a good business. You're a pretty good dentist. You're a landscaper for 20 years. You can withstand the economy, good economy, bad economy, landscaping business doing well. You're a pretty good landscaper. Harbaugh's been good at this for 20 years. That doesn't mean he can't have a bad game, but I'll go back to it. A dropped punt his first year and a bad mark by an official his second year is the difference between his first year from 11-2, the punter. That's the game. They're 11-2 from Brady Hoke's mess that went 6-10 and 7 blowouts. That, and he can't coach because of that. Then the following year, they go to the playoff. They got a bad, and again, whether it was a good mark or a bad mark against Ohio State, I watched the game. This play, they stopped him. And by the way, they stopped him. It was in Ohio State. At Ann Arbor, they get the mark. In Columbus, they don't get the mark. That gets them 11-1. Come on, this guy went into the Pac-12 when Pete Carroll was running college football, went in as a 40-point underdog to the Coliseum and beat Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll, by the time Harbaugh left the Pac-12, Pete Carroll confronted Harbaugh after a game because he felt Harbaugh poured it on. The guy can coach. Stop arguing. That's another Harbaugh quote. If you take the meat out of the chili, it's just salsa. Car shopping's confusing. A lot of terms. Dealer price, list price, invoice. True Car shows you what other people paid for the car you want. Recognize a good price. New or used, doesn't matter. TrueCar.com. All right, we're back tomorrow. Later today, speak for yourself. In Los Angeles for everybody. Football's getting close.